Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, hi, I'm Bree. I live in Kansas Zone 7A, and tonight I'm going to give you a tour of my backyard garden here at the beginning of June. I am jumping up this video a week, mostly because the garlic is about to be pulled, and I really want to show you guys the space before the garlic is pulled. I am speaking, we are days away from the garlic, so I'm very excited to show you guys that, but the garden is absolutely booming with life. We had a great May. We had a lot of really good rain. We did dodge a few bullets when it comes to hail, but other than that, we had really good weather. We had a lot of just 70s and 80s, very great temperatures for plants to thrive, and the garden is really showing that. I can't wait to show you guys it today, so let's go ahead and just jump right in. Since we've been starting with the garlic all year, let's go ahead and start here. So as you can see, it is dying back quite a bit. So I typically like to wait for about half the leaves to die back before I pull. In previous videos, I will say 3 to 4 leaves. I'm shooting for 4 to 5 this year. I wanted to play around a little bit. I have pulled a few, mostly chestnut. Chestnut is the variety that I'm seeing clonking out the fastest. So what I will do is cure this, and I have a whole curing station in the garage. Believe me, I will show you guys the whole process. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you're subscribed, because that is the next video coming. I can't wait to see this garlic harvest. The bulbs I have harvested are so beautiful, and this by far was the year I swear my garlic has just looked the best going into the dieback. So let's see, is there one I want to pull? I've been trying to wait for the soil to dry out a little bit as well. We got so much good rain over the last few days that this soil is just kind of soaking, but that looks so, now my hand's just completely dirty. I'm gonna have to go run inside, but that is beautiful. Like I said, I already do have a few of these curing in the garage, so when I cure stuff, I have a fan going pretty much at all times to help with airflow. But so far, I am so excited. So I planted 4 different varieties. I have Chestnut Red, which is these ones here, and then this is another variety called Italian Purple. This one here is Georgian Fire, and then I have another one called Ischium Red. I think I always pronounce that one wrong, but that one's a soft neck, and that's new for me this year. And I have not pulled a single one of those yet. That is so pretty. Okay, I'm gonna go wash my hands, and then I guess I'll just show you where I have this in the garage real fast, because I need to go just throw this with the others. So normally the light's off, but in my garage I have this little curing station. I'll go over it more next week, but right now I'm just clipping the other ones up. Here's a few of the others that I pulled. I think this was yesterday. I just pulled these ones, and again, another really, really beautiful head of garlic. All right, well, here are the varieties. So these are all hard neck. I did not mention that. And this is soft neck here, like I said. I'm really excited to attempt braiding. So if you have any tips on braiding, please let me know. But I'm really, really excited about these. I think they've done that really, really well. But the Georgian Fire, as you can still see, even with the dieback stage, it's definitely still looking like the best, biggest, fullest plants. But if you look closer here, this is what I'm talking about with leaves dying. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and our 5th one here is now dying. So yeah, this is really coming up on the last few days of all the garlic, but I'm so excited to share that with you guys. Along the fence, I do have some mammoth sunflowers, and they're actually doing really well. This area gets really sunny. I just planted them in the ground because I was like, hey, why not? But let's move on to the front now, because it is really starting to fill out. So this trellis in the front this year is cantaloupe, and I'm so excited because the cantaloupe is really starting to take off and hold onto the trellis. So excited. I really hope cantaloupe does well here this year, because I just wanted a very viney, big leafed plant in the front. I wanted it to be very, very pretty. I have Goldie Honey Bear sunflowers here, which I will say, this one right here got attacked by some caterpillars, so it's looking a little holy, but it should rebound just fine. My chamomile plant, guys, oh my gosh, I've been picking so much chamomile, and I just have endless chamomile. Honestly, I need to harvest this again by tomorrow and get it into my hang dryer. I already probably have about 3/4 of a quart jar filled with dried chamomile. And this isn't my only plant. I had 2 volunteers. So I have so much chamomile that honestly, I probably shouldn't buy chamomile tea for the rest of the year. Maybe that's another good gift, because one thing I'm doing is actually harvesting a bunch of herbs right now, because that makes a great Christmas gift. And I have so many backstocked where I know I only need to throw a little bit back, but I would like to get into the habit of preserving food right now because the abundance is really coming on. So this time of year is great to really focus on herbs and like put some back. So I'm trying to put some of that back for Christmas gifts, and maybe I'll do some chamomile tea too. But all the herbs up here, I have peppermint, I have parsley, oregano, rosemary. I also have some hibiscus up here and over there for hibiscus tea. We are big tea people here. The peppermint is also for like drinks and things like that. But other than that, I have some lavender, which I also like lavender tea, speaking of tea, but I'm really excited to have some lavender. Rosemary, I really like to do an apple cider hair vinegar rinse with rosemary, but I have a lot of different herbs up here. I also have just a bunch of different flowers. I really like the front space to be really inviting, and I think the cantaloupe is going to be the thing that really brings it over the top this year. Forgot to mention with the cantaloupe that it is starting to bloom, which is really exciting. This is a variety called Hal's Jumbo. I also think I didn't mention that this is the 3rd year that I am growing this Hal's Jumbo variety. These are huge cantaloupes. They've typically been bigger than the size of my head. Toward the end of the season, they'll be a little bit smaller, but this has been a great producer in my garden. All of the zinnias I have are a variety called Queen Orange Lime, and you can see they all look very different from the necks. They are all so pretty and so unique, and they go together so well, but you can see how you get so much variety, and they're all from the same seed packet. So here's cantaloupe, and on the back side of the trellises I have cosmos on both sides, and I also have the cosmos over here. So I forgot to mention, these are called the bright light cosmos, and I think they are so pretty. They're just this very vibrant orange, very whimsical, and I thought they would look really pretty with the green door, and I'm just absolutely loving them. So for the most part, our first wave of strawberries is done. They are starting to put on their second wave of flowers. They are also starting to put on runners. One thing I need to do is go throughout this bed and actually weed it, maybe thin it out a little bit. We got a good amount of strawberries the first round. I also did just harvest some of the strawberry leaves as well. I really like the strawberry leaves for tea. It's a very dry tasting tea, kind of like a wine, very tannic, but I really enjoy it. It's a very good one if you have strawberries in your garden. I have been picking blueberries every day though, even though the strawberries are now currently done with their first wave, so I do need to pick them. I will say the bags also help deter the birds with all the ones that aren't bagged up. I bagged up a few of like the really good clusters. I figured birds would still come, but I have seen a few birds over here and I haven't seen any taken. So very happy about that. The little bags, the little mesh bags here, you can just put them onto the stem and it will just help protect any berry in there. So here's my yarrow and echinacea patch. As you can see, my echinacea, I only have 1 flower at the moment. The yarrow is kind of taking over this spot. I used to have 2 echinacea plants, and now I currently only have 1 over here. I do have 2 planted in the front as well to help. They are a perennial here, so that's why that one is already blooming so well, but I'm a little disappointed. So after this whole area blooms, probably I would say like August or September, this is one of those long going flowers. It just really brings in a lot of good pollinators for me. I don't have to do anything with it. It's just a perennial for me. Again, I haven't done much with it, but it is time to thin it out. So come this fall, I will probably thin it out a little bit. We'll see. But I always just love how this little patch looks very wild and crazy. It is in a 100-gallon grow bag. So it is just this circle grow bag. One thing I actually did differently this year that I have really liked is I put a bunch of T-posts along like kind of the 4 corners of a circle, even though there's not 4 corners. And I've been wrapping twine, and that's helped so much with our crazy wind and our rain to help these flowers not just droop down after a crazy rainstorm. 2 nights ago, we had some very crazy wind and rain, and I actually lost one of my snapdragons. It just completely snapped. That has worked really well for me and I've really liked it. Again, I just love this little space. I think it just looks so whimsical and pretty. All right, now let's jump to onions. I am so excited to show you guys these right now. Okay, so let's look at the onions. They are really starting to bulb up, guys. We are probably in our last 4 to 5 weeks with the onions in the ground. At least last year we fell at about 4 weeks, a little bit under 4 weeks from today. The onions started to fall and die back. So there's going to be a lot of space in this garden clearing out very soon. I have all of these onions that will be pulled within, again, about 4-ish weeks, maybe a little longer. And then all of this garlic is coming out within days. But guys, the onions are doing so well. You can see they're just all bulbing up so nice. And I'm so excited to see this year's harvest compared to last year. Now, there's a few things that I've done a little differently this year with the onions. One, starting off with seeding them. So I did majority of these in individual soil blocks to where when I went to go plant them out, I wasn't messing with the root systems at all. I was trying to have as little root disturbance as possible. And honestly, that worked out phenomenal. I loved it. It made transplanting so easy when typically doing transplanting of onions and planting onions was a very tedious thing that I really didn't enjoy, but doing them individually in soil blocks was so nice. I also feel like they had better water and better nutrition. My starts overall this year looked really well. So I think the starts played a huge role in how we are currently looking today. I did have a little bit of damage from a pretty cold snap we had late. And then we've also had some significant wind that has caused some wind damage. But other than that, things are looking really well. Since I have had those two things that have caused a little bit of damage, one thing I am doing this year that I have not done in previous years at all, this is a very first for me, is I have sprayed an organic fungicide on the onions just to make sure I'm not having any fungal disease that's going to affect any of my storage. That is huge for me. The other thing that has been different is the way I fertilize. So I've been using a fish and seaweed fertilizer on pretty much everything. I stopped fertilizing the garlic about 3 to 4 weeks ago when the scapes appeared, but I've been using this stuff about every 7 to 10 days. I'm honestly due to go ahead and do it again, but I've been doing these full year feeds with an organic fish and seaweed fertilizer, and I swear it's been such a game changer. I also amended everything, but that's the one thing this year that made the difference with my starts too. Like, I've been using that with the onions from the very beginning, and it's worked really well in my opinion. So I'll be really curious to see how this harvest goes very, very soon. Honestly, I can't believe we are already like in some of the big harvest times already. June, July, August, and going into September are some of my favorite months, but the next 3 months are some of my favorite garden tours. You're going to see just how crazy this space truly gets and how much it changes over the next few months. Some of these onions are so good looking. Like, look at this thing. I am honestly just so impressed. So impressed. I'm so excited about all of these. Onions and garlic I use in my cooking all the time. So to have good harvest of these, it's just so good because the flavor truly is unmatched. So on the one side of my shed here, along with some of those herbs, I actually have all of my jalapeno plants, and they're starting to do really well. It's looking like I have maybe a few popping up. I forgot to say this last garden tour, I believe, but one thing I did different with the peppers this year was I didn't touch them. I didn't top them. I didn't pinch any of the blooms before planting them out. That is two things a lot of gardeners and farmers suggest to do to help make a bushier plant. So this year, I decided not to do anything. I decided to leave the plants completely alone because my first few years gardening, I didn't do any of those things. And those were some of my best pepper years I've ever had. And then since then, I've been either doing one or the other or a combo of those two I just mentioned. And I'm like, no, this year I'm not touching them. And so far this year, I've been really impressed on how a lot of the peppers are doing. So I'm going to be really curious to see if that little change makes a bigger difference or not, because I feel like that's the one thing I've done truly different. I know like soil and weather plays a huge role as well, but if this is the year I didn't touch my pepper plants, I might not ever top them or pinch the blooms ever again. Because I also have already gotten like a banana pepper or two, which has been really nice and also kind of early. I don't know if I've ever harvested a pepper that early, to be honest. So also over here, you can see I did cut this down a little bit because it was like really coming out and I didn't want this just to be completely taken over. So honestly, I don't know what this is. Obviously it is some type of squash. This is where my compost pile was. And at the beginning of the season, I completely took it down and I put these grow pots here because this is a very sunny location and I thought it would do well. The last few years I've had volunteer pumpkins in my compost. So I'm almost thinking this is some type of pumpkin. I don't know if it's a cross of something. I think at this point, it's way too big to be the honey nut variety I grew last year. But honestly, I don't know. We will see. I'm starting to get some flowers on it. So we'll see what flowers get pollinated. Honestly, I don't have much high hopes for it because if it is a traditional pumpkin, I'm typically dealing with vine borer. And I'm also just not that excited about having a pumpkin on the ground because of all the squash bugs I have been dealing with over the last few years. And this seems like it might be a pain. So there's a good chance I might pull it, but it's thriving and I really like it. So I'm gonna leave it for now. Other than that, I have some Roma tomatoes over here and there's something so interesting about all of my tomatoes at the moment. So let me show you all of my Roma varieties and then we'll get into it. So here's a batch of Romas. Here's some more Romas. And then these two back ones here are also Romas, which these are also Roma varieties, but these are like true Roma plants. With those three areas, all three of those plants are the same and they were all started the same, but they all three look significantly different. What is different about all three of them is the soil. So I did amend soil. This was brand new soil this year. That's some old soil, and then that's some of my very oldest soil. And I also amended these two areas a little different. But one thing I will say, the fruit production that is currently going on my tomatoes is so crazy. We will get into that in a little bit. I wanted to kind of space out my tomatoes in different areas this year to kind of maybe help combat any type of blight, maybe give them good airflow, different, you know, just different environments. And so far that's also been a very interesting thing that I've noticed over the last little bit. But anyway, as you can see, the trellis is starting to go so crazy. I am loving having all of the green beans on here. So the green beans are already up to here. They are really going strong. So I've never grown like pole beans on a trellis like this before. But one thing I wanted this year was to really have a good green bean year. I've had really bad green bean years the last few years, so I really wanted to devote a good amount of space. So in previous years, I've had loofah, which this is loofah here. I'll show you guys a closer up in just a minute. I have some little baby loofahs going on already. But I've had loofah, but I've also had a winter squash. I've had cantaloupe, I've had squash, I've had cucumbers, and various other things on this trellis. I've never just devoted this space to green beans. So I'm really excited to have like the cantaloupe in another area, the honeydew in another area, which I also haven't shown you the honeydew. I'll show you guys that in a second. But this is loofah and the rest of this is green beans minus the very end. I have a few cucumber plants, and then I also have some more San Marzanos, and then also the cherry tomato variety I've grown the last few years, that pink bumblebee. But yeah, this trellis right here is actually where my honeydew is. So that one's cantaloupe, this one's honeydew, and then we have loofah, and then all of my green beans, which I did notice the green beans starting to flower as of this morning, which is really exciting. There's some right there actually. But then I also have my pink bumblebee variety, which is starting to fruit. I have my San Marzano, which this is really interesting because these are side by side, which this plant looks really good and is doing well. Might have a little bit of curl action going on, but this plant's not looking too hot. And the fruit on it looks really weird. This is supposed to be a San Marzano, and I did not buy a striping variety. You can see these were from the exact same seed packet, and this fruit looks normal and pretty, and this one looks very abnormal. So trying to figure that out. If you have any tips on what could be going on with this, please let me know down below. That'd be really helpful. Thank you. But yeah, here's some of the Roma varieties. setting fruit. They're all looking really, really good. The only other thing in this middle stretch that I have not mentioned is my carrots. I have a good amount of carrots over here, and they're starting to do pretty well. Obviously not ready or anything, but they're getting pretty established. I might need to weed this area a little bit more, but the carrots are looking really good. I also have them lined over here where the tomatoes and the snapdragons are as well, just in a strip. I was trying to fit as much as I possibly could, and so far that's working pretty well. I also have a random volunteer sunflower over here. But here's some of the pepper plants that I've had downstairs. You can see they weren't looking so hot, and then I transplanted them, and they've been doing a lot better. I should have transplanted these a lot sooner than I did. And then I just have some extra sweet potato slips. I might actually throw maybe a few more out, but I have white sage down here. I harvested all of the old growth on it. This is not a perennial for us, but I did overwinter it, and it's just doing really great. I have some more oregano, rosemary, mint over here, and then this is culinary sage. So I have white sage and culinary sage, which I've had this culinary sage plant now, I want to say it's been 4 or 5 years. It's been a while. It's been since before we remodeled the whole garden, and it was flowering, and now you can see it's just putting on a bunch of seed. I honestly need to cut it back. Here's another really good looking onion, which I haven't touched any of the mulch or pulled anything back really for the most part. It's just been doing it itself. Okay, let's talk tomatoes. I have a few varieties. I grow majority all paste varieties minus the 2 cherry tomatoes I have over there. So I grow all paste because I personally like paste for fresh eating. If I am gonna do any fresh eating, I'm personally not a tomato girl. I'm just not. I will eat mine from my garden because they taste completely different, but typically I'm just not a tomato girly. I do love tomato products though, and I do love to make tomato sauce. This year I really want to do a lot more diced tomatoes. I went through those so fast. Diced tomatoes are great to make a quick pasta sauce or a quick pizza sauce really quick. It's great for chilies and things like that. So I'm thinking I'm going to do a lot of my tomatoes this year in diced tomato form. I also plan to do a ton of salsa. I ate through our salsa. I had so much salsa, and I think we ended up getting to about February with our salsa. So I would really like to do a lot more salsa and diced tomatoes this year. I still want to do some sauce, but so far the tomatoes are looking so promising. So far right now my Supremos, which is these ones over here, they are cranking out the fruit. I already have 20 plus on this one plant alone. They are looking so beautiful. Last year the Supremo produced so well for me. Very uniform, very big Roma tomatoes. It is a hybrid. I will say it did end up knocking out with blight a little early, so I'm curious to see how this year will go because this is only my second year growing it, and I have them in a completely different area. I've been treating them a little bit differently. I haven't pruned these that much. I have pruned them. I do want to keep airflow really well. If I'm pruning anything off, I'm just making sure it's a sun leaf and not a sucker. So I grow majority determinate plants. I have them in tomato cages. These are a bush tomato. The other ones on my trellis are an indeterminate. So an indeterminate will grow to an indeterminate height, and these determinate plants will go to a determined height, which roughly is about 3 to 5 feet with all of the determinates that I've personally grown. I am growing some other ones this year that are new for me called the Inca Jewels, and they're supposed to be a little bit shorter, I believe. These Supremos are definitely shorter. Last year I think they got to be about maybe 3.5, but in the past some of these Romas I've grown have gotten to be about 4 or 5. So honestly, I'm really curious to see how this year will continue to do. So far so good, but we haven't got into like the hot and humid weather, and that will typically be what starts to really take the tomato plant. I actually don't enjoy growing tomatoes. They're like my least favorite thing to grow, but it's just such a difference, and you can't compare. But let me show you this one Supremo close up. I was showing my husband the other day because it's honestly so crazy. So you have this one cluster right here that already has like, I think there's 6 or 7 fruit right there. You have another really good looking cluster, another cluster, another cluster. You have all of these small tomatoes starting to form. Honestly, these are going absolutely crazy. Here's another Supremo Right here you can see just the beautiful clusters of fruit. Overall, really happy about this. Again, I'm just so impressed, but I am also growing these tomatoes in a completely different location than I have for the last, I think, 2 or 3 years. They are in a slightly sunnier location as well. So that could also be making a huge difference. That was one thing I really wanted to change this year going into this garden season, because when I first started gardening, my tomatoes were kind of right along here in grow bags, and that's one of my sunniest locations. And I would get so many tomatoes off of 6 to 8 tomato plants that I had a crazy amount. And then I started growing 20 plus tomato plants, and I was having harvests that weren't as great. I do say that is because I wasn't amending soil or feeding plants that well, and it was also because they weren't in a sunny location. So there's a lot of different factors this year that I've been playing around and kind of tweaking, and so far I've been just really happy overall with some of the adjustments I've been making. Every year with gardening is so different, and you only have one shot to do those little adjustments to kind of see what might actually be different for you and your space and your garden. So it's always a toss-up on what might work, what might not, and what might end up being a good outcome. But so far this year, I feel like those little things have been working in my favor. I really should probably knock on wood right now. So here's all of my peppers. I do have a random volunteer sunflower that I left, but all of my peppers, all of these here are my paprika variety called the Hungarian Magyar. Starting to put on a bunch of really, really pretty fruit, as you might be able to see here. They're doing really well. This one here on the end is my snacking pepper. So I have this one and these two, and you can see they're a little bit shorter. They're a little bit bushy. They're not as tall as some of the others. So I'll be really curious about these, but these peppers here are the snacking peppers that you see at the grocery store in like a little bag that are red, orange, and yellow that you can get just for like dipping and stuff. So I'm so excited about these. I got these seeds from Johnny's. I believe it's a lunchbox variety mix. So this is new for me this year. I'm very excited about these. Beside both of those, these are my poblanos. Poblanos are also a newer one for me, and they have not quite set fruit, I don't believe, quite yet, but you can see these ones are a little bit taller. It's very interesting to see how every variety is so different, but I'm very excited to have these poblanos. I really want to do like a stuffed fried poblano pepper. And then right beside these, I have some bell pepper plants, and you can see my bell peppers are starting to be put on, which is very exciting. And then beside all of the bells, I have banana peppers. So you can see the banana peppers are the ones that are definitely the ones I can go ahead and harvest. Honestly, I should probably go ahead and get some of these bigger ones, but so good. I love homegrown banana peppers. This year, I actually need to pickle more banana peppers. That is something I have to have on my list this year for canning. And then I have some serrano peppers, and then also cayenne peppers, which this cayenne variety, I need to double check what variety I ended up going with this year, but so far I'm really loving how these peppers are looking. The last few years I have not liked the cayenne variety I have tried. They've been a little bit thinner walled and a little bit harder to work with, and I feel like these have some good structure to them. So I'm really curious to see how I will really like this cayenne. I need to see the seed packet and figure out exactly what variety this is. But the one thing that's random is this. So I had potatoes over here last year, which I still have my one pepper plant just chilling here, but there's obviously 2 potato plants chilling in the middle of my pepper bed, and I just decided to leave them. So I might have a very random small harvest of Kennebec potatoes. We will see. So I did harvest out all of the broccoli. I have left the plants though for things like this, some offshoots. I wanted to see if I could get any more like little florets that I could go ahead and harvest, but overall great broccoli harvest this year. So this variety here is called the Bell Star, which has worked really well for me. So we have very crazy fluctuating temperatures where I live, and that is stress on your plants. So a few years ago I read that the Bell Star was supposed to be more stress resistant, so I was like, all right, let me give it a go. It has been the only broccoli variety that has actually produced a head for me in spring. I have got other ones to produce for me in fall as we get cooler, but it's the one variety that's produced for me in spring, and it's given me these big, beautiful heads of broccoli. So it's going to be one of those that I probably grow forever. But the plants are still in the ground at the moment because I can give these plants to the chickens. I can also harvest the leaves. I actually don't do too much with broccoli leaves. I just give them typically to the chickens. But again, they're in here at the moment just so I can see if I can get any offshoots before completely pulling them. But I'm thinking with this space, even though I was not really sure what I was going to do with it once harvest came, because this is an area that really shades out this time of year. So I was thinking during like midsummer, I was just going to maybe leave it blank until I was planting out some fall stuff. But now I'm thinking I might just go ahead and throw like some type of bush bean, green bean, maybe a kidney bean, black bean. I don't really know. I just don't want to leave the space blank. And now that it's time to get these plants out, I really got to make this decision ASAP because I don't think I want to leave it blank. But all the cool weather crops are really starting to come out. We are getting just a little too warm for a lot of those things to really thrive anymore. Okay, so let's talk snapdragons, because honestly, these are probably my new favorite addition to the garden. I've never grown them before, but how beautiful are these flowers. So this is a variety called Potomac Early Sunrise. I believe I'm pronouncing Potomac wrong. I looked up how to pronounce it one day and I was completely off. I believe it's a town somewhere. So please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure I'm wrong, but that is the variety. I got the seeds from Johnny's and they are so gorgeous. I have these really pretty light pink and yellows, very sherbety. I have these dark orange and pinks and just all these different colors of very sunrise, very sunset-ish. And I just think they are so gorgeous. I'm obsessed. I think they add so much character to the garden. One thing I am loving this year that really stands out to me, I was just telling my husband this, is I have different pockets of color that all really coordinate this year. And this was the year I really wanted to have very cohesive colors throughout with all different varieties. It was very hard to kind of figure all of that out. But once I started to pick up a few, I was like, okay, I think those would go really well. And I have flowers kind of throughout all of the spaces, and all of these different colors are blooming throughout, but they all kind of go and they're all different colors and all different varieties and all different types of flowers. And I am obsessed. Honestly, flowers make such a difference. I am, again, just honestly obsessed. If you follow me on Instagram, you will clearly see I've been posting a picture of these snapdragons. I want to say like once a day at this point, but they are so beautiful and they have to be shared with the world. So I really want you guys to appreciate them as much as I do, because I think they are so cool. So I showed this on a short this week, but if you go pinch the back of the flower will open up like a dragon's mouth does. And that is how you kind of get that name or nickname Snapdragon. I don't know the exact name of this, but isn't that so cool? I must say, I think this one here is probably my favorite. It's very, very sunset, sunrise-ish, but I just love all of the colors so much. So I do still have a collard plant that does not look so hot. This ended up being more of a trap crop for a lot of the cabbage worms than anything. The kale still looks good though, and I'll rip that off for the chickens. Last week I got all of the sweet potatoes planted with you guys, and they are starting to look like they are taking a little bit. So I'm really excited about all of those. The A-frame trellis, I'm excited to have the sweet potatoes because I think they're going to do really well. Sweet potatoes do well in hot and humid climates, and that's exactly what we get during the summer. And I have yet to have this thing have a true beautiful vine on it, so I'm really excited to see how that goes this summer. Over here I have my dahlias, which these are the Bee's Choice from Floret, and they are all so different and unique and so pretty all on their own. I love all the different variety. I've had a few of these ones pop up now, and it reminds me of just like a starburst. I love all the beautiful coloring on it. This one here, very fluffy. So they are doing so well, and just look at all those colors, guys. They look so pretty. These are my breadseed poppies, which they are starting to put their like buds on, so I'm really excited to see what their blooms look like. But this is the one issue I am currently having in the garden. There is definitely some type of disease going on with these poppies, and since I do have the fungal stuff for the onions, I went ahead and sprayed it over here as well. I did prune these back a little bit. I think it was just a moisture thing, and these leaves are very thin. So the moment, I believe this is like some type of blight, the moment the blight hit them, they just got a little crunchy, but I think I'll still be able to get like really pretty blooms out of them. They've been doing a lot better since I kind of treated everything. So I'm happy to see that, but they are starting to finally put their blooms on. So these are breadseed poppies. These are the poppies that will give you poppy seeds, and I really want to harvest my own poppy seeds, make some like lemon poppy seed muffins or something like that. I think that would just be so unique and cool. Last year I grew poppies not knowing that there was an ornamental and a culinary difference, which obviously there's pretty much that in every variety of plant, but yeah, these are the breadseed poppies and they should be blooming pretty soon. I will say I'm a little bit disappointed with my elderberries. I believe they're probably already done flowering for the year, and I only got maybe like 1 or 2 decent clusters. I don't think they pollinated well. This one started to bloom a little bit earlier than my other elderberry, and they're supposed to cross pollinate, and I don't know. Overall, I don't think I'm probably going to get many berries out of my elderberries, but the plants are still really pretty. Along my fence, I still have random sunflowers. This one over here was actually a volunteer sunny. I'm hoping it's a Goldie. I'm not quite sure. We will see what it is, but I did plant various other sunflowers along the fence just to see. One thing you might be able to notice is how much shade we get along the second half of the fence. You can see none of the sunflowers are doing much of anything, if well at all. This area over here gets a lot of shade, so unfortunately I don't know if my whole sunflower fence is really going to work out, but that's fine. I do have another random squash plant popping up, so leaving that, I guess we'll see what that is. Here's all the ladies. I need to see how many eggs we got. But lastly, over in this corner here, I did plant some iris. I don't know what type of iris this is, but I was gifted this from my husband's coworker. So I'm very excited to have some iris over here. I think this would just be a really great perennial space. This is an area I actually need to work on. I had my chickens over here for a while, and you can see I need to grate it and cover it and whatnot. I actually think I am going to plant my other elderberry over here. That is the actual plan. So I might actually plant that over here. But this is my other one. This is one called Instant Karma. I love it. It has this really pretty variegated leaf. You can see like some of these ones over here are like really, really white looking, but I got barely any fruit. These are the only berries I have on this plant. So yeah, the elderberries have been a little disappointing, but it is only my first full year with them. Come on, girls. Let's go to bed, honeys. Come on. Come on, girls. This way. Come on. Good job. Let me take you along for collecting eggs before I leave you for the night. Let's see how many we got. What? No, we only got 3 today. It's been a while since we've only gotten 3 eggs. What's up with that, girls? I'll still take 3 eggs any day. All right, guys, well, that is going to be it. I hope you enjoyed seeing the garden in June. Honestly, this is one of my favorite times of the year, and the next few months with garden tours are going to be so much fun. So I hope you're subscribed. Also, don't forget, I'm doing my garlic video next. So if you want to see that garlic harvest, definitely make sure you're subscribed, because that's going to be a good video. Either way though, guys, I hope you enjoyed seeing the garden here in June. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye.